Every event you host with iVent means trees planted. Did you know that an average conference attendee emits 145 kilograms of CO2 per day? Traditional events are one of the biggest contributors in the world to travel emissions and food waste. It's time to change that with virtual. iVent is the leading virtual and hybrid events platform with people in mind and a mission to make events carbon neutral. Their secure, customizable platform and friendly in-house event specialists come together to help you deliver engaging virtual event experiences. Visit ivent-hq.com today to discover how their solutions can help you deliver virtual events that make the planet greener.
Are you a
10, 9, 8,
okay, so we're gonna probably add
Welcome to GatherGeeks, a podcast by BizBash, the place where people passionate about meetings and events come together. Here's your host, BizBash chairman and founder, David Adler.
Today we're bringing you live sessions from the first BizBash conference in the post-COVID era. We all gathered in Las Vegas recently and had some wonderful conversations and presentations, and we're really excited to share these with you. So take a listen. I'm so excited today to be joined by Dawn Penfold of Meetingjobs. We're going to be discussing the great talent search that's going on. We've heard about it in the news. We're talking about all the different aspects of it. We're talking about the bounce back that we're going to experience. So Dawn, welcome to the show. This is a podcast. This is a show for our conference, our virtual show as well. Tell us, we've been friends for many years and you've been my jobs guru. Where are we now? What is the situation? And then tell us a little bit about Cadre.
Thank you, David, for having me. It's always nice to have a conversation with you. We always learn something and we always share something, so it's great. First of all, with me, like many of us, when everything went kaboom last March in 2020, I sat there and I thought, there are no jobs, there's no postings, people are being laid off. And I really saw it as a sign that, okay, maybe this is time to retire. And then I thought, no, I'm not really ready. I'm just not ready. And I had been working with a group at Cadre with some other work, and we decided to join forces. And so basically, Cadre does the independent contractorship, the on-site work, the project managers. I do the permanent project, the permanent placement, the job board. And combined, we handle the talent market across the entire spectrum. So I wasn't ready to retire. Here I am. You can't get rid of me. So that's what went on with me. But so many people were laid off. All of a sudden, we had to reinvent our entire industry and then re-engage. And we're right now in full force re-engagement.
And what does that mean from the point of view of the employer in trying to find talent as we go through this? June 1st in Vegas, it's going to open up 100%. And I think people are terrified that they don't have people to do the work and everybody's going to be scrambling. Everything's a little bit rusty. What are you hearing from the calls that you're getting? Or are you getting? Is the phone ringing?
We're getting calls. I'll be honest with you, on the project side, on the temporary side, meaning I need someone to handle a project. I need someone to do this. That side is slammed right now. In fact, we just had a meeting and we found out that November and December, usually in our industry, is a little bit slower when it comes to meetings and conventions, but people are picking up the slack of where they left off. And so now they're saying, okay, we need somebody. But as another hiring official told me, he said, I had to lay off 40 people. I don't want to go through that again. It's just heartbreaking to do that. So what we're finding right now is that people are hiring the project workers until those budgets come in, that they feel that they can hire somebody permanently. So it's almost like the old saying of temp to hire or temp to perm. And it's now, okay, let's bring somebody in for a project. Let's bring somebody in for 3 days. And when budgets allow, let's make them permanent. And that's what we're seeing a lot of right now.
And are these the companies that are doing this or the third-party planners or
Both. We're seeing a lot of third-party planners and third-party companies, the med ed companies, the third-party planners, the special event companies. We're seeing them do that. But the challenge is that they have a pile of proposals on their desk and they're waiting for those signatures. And once those signatures come through, then they go in, they do the hiring. And it's almost like people are hesitant. They're waiting for that shoe to drop, like we
So the
all are.
people, so the people that they've gotten calls from these people, they put in their resumes, but people are still waiting because they don't know what's going to happen. They're just not pulling triggers.
People are not pulling triggers as quickly. They're pulling the triggers, but not as quickly. And there's various reasons for that. One is they're unsure about the business that's coming. The second thing is they're unsure about what's going to happen out there with the environment and medically and everything like that. We're waiting for that vaccination effect to come in. And the third reason is they're just, I don't want to use the word gun shy, but they just want to make sure it's time to bring that person in. And add to that, that other areas were affected besides the hospitality industry. HR was hit very hard. Corporations let go HR people. So now there's fewer people to actually do the work of the hiring process. An average job now is bringing in 500 to 700 resumes. I posted one the other day and got 750 resumes.
Wow. Are people then trying to hire back first? They're people that they laid off, or are they looking for fresh talent?
There's no percentage of, or no correct answer there. I'm seeing that people are hiring back people that they had furloughed or laid off and saying, okay, can you come back if they're still available? But I'm also seeing hiring officials say, it's time to hire some fresh talent. Bring me some Gen Zs. Bring me the new college grads. And that to me is interesting too.
So what are the new jobs that you're seeing that they're hiring? With all this digital stuff going on, are we seeing the traditional person in event pros jobs shifting dramatically and that they're not even prepared for the new world?
Okay, two areas I'm seeing. One is hybrid meetings. Obviously, they're here to stay, like this meeting here. Hybrid meetings, it's not a passing fad. It really isn't. It's going to be here to stay. So they're looking for that experience for hybrid people who have that experience. The second place that I'm seeing that people are looking for is safety, pandemic safety, on-site pandemic protocol. And that changes daily. That's changing daily as all the rules are changing. And again, when they're hiring, that's what they're looking for, somebody who's flexible and able to put out fires quickly. So that's what they're looking for in that area. But they're also still looking, this is going to come out wrong, but the people who are the logistics people are not as much in demand as the people who are the producers, the strategic people, the people who can look at the big picture and say, gee, what's the format for this meeting? What's the best format? What's the objective of this meeting? Is it a podcast? Is it a webcast? Is it a live meeting? Is it an event? So they're looking for the strategic person to actually look at that meeting and figure out which is the best way to go. Not the coffee cup.
What skill sets are they looking? What's the number one skill set in this new world that they're looking for? Is it writing skills? Is it run of show skills? Is it content skills? Is it technology skills? What would you suggest for people to run out and take the course that they haven't already done it?
Strategic meeting or an event management, that is one that they're looking for, the strategic aspect of it. Technology is always going to be important. As I said, hybrid meeting knowledge is going to be important, those skills. But I'm also seeing all of a sudden, and I never saw this before, is more of the soft skills. I'm seeing the words empathy, somebody who is considerate, somebody who is a team player. Those things are being moved up on the notch list of importance, where before, come on, let's look back at when we were doing this in the 80s and 90s. How many times did you see empathy on the job description? It never was on there. And now all of a sudden they're looking for empathetic people.
Well, how do you communicate your empathy?
But it's not, it's just, and that's where it comes across in a conversation. The question that I'm finding every hiring official is asking is, what problem did you solve or what did you learn during the pandemic. So they're looking for somebody to say, I had to renegotiate contracts. I had to pull the team together and do training and having a virtual office. I had to do this, I had to do that. Everybody needs that story. And in that story is where you should weave in during your interview, which will most likely be in this format.
Oh, yeah.
But what you have to do is weave in your empathy story. And I always say, look at the job ad and look at the description and look what they're looking for. And if they list empathy there, if they list hybrid meetings, if they look at pandemic protocol, if they list that, make sure that's in your conversation that you have with them.
And so what is the employer, though? They're looking for empathy and things like that. How are they judging the people other than in this conversation? Like, what questions are they taking seriously when they're interviewing somebody?
Interaction, they'll say, how did you interact with the staff when all of a sudden you had to lay off 20 people? How did you interact with your staff when you had to do virtual training? They're looking for interaction questions. And empathy is a word that has a different, I would say, a different feeling for everybody who's asking the question. So they're going to be looking for what touches them, what makes it work for them. So there's no specific test or question that can show empathy, but it's more of a feeling that you get during the interview.
And so, no, in the interview today, we're talking both sides. We're talking the employer and we're talking the actual applicant. But the applicant and the employer are two sides of the same thing right now. How personal should you get in your interview to be? You're trying to come off as authentic, but do you get into your COVID experience in a detailed way? Do you talk about sort of personal things? Or are they looking for just the facts?
Again, judge the hiring official. If you're the interviewee and you're talking to somebody, try to judge if they're all business. Try to judge if they have that, if they're showing empathetic skills. So I would not go into a long story. You don't 20-minute story about just the awful details of somebody who may have suffered something terrible. But I would show some of the skills, something you learned, something that is valuable, a lesson that you learned, and talk about that.
Because we're on this medium, can you just share your screen and show a presentation deck as an employer, or not? Is a way to?
You mean as a candidate? Can you show a presentation? You mean, okay, I'm going to give you an example. Zoom interviews are very difficult because you can't. Let's even step back further. Before you even get a Zoom interview with a hiring official, 10 to 1, you're going to be going through an applicant tracking system, which will prejudge your resume before you even get to them with keywords. You might have a chatbot interview that will come across that will just pick up keywords again in question answer period in a chatbot. Or you may have an avatar interview where they have avatars that will interview you. It's very hard to get through your sparkling personality, your smile, your shiny eyes. It's hard to do all that when it's being done by a machine before you even get to the Zoom in.
Okay, can I interrupt 1 second? You're trying to sell empathy and you're being interviewed by a bot.
You're right.
That makes no sense.
You're right. But they're going to look for some keywords, and it might be in your cover letter. It might be in there. And then when you get to there, that's when you have to try to impress people with Zoom. But I have to tell you, or on any platform, I don't want to just say Zoom, but I had a candidate who was extremely successful in the interview process. She went through 9 interviews, never met anybody personally until she was 6 months into the job. How she was successful was, first of all, she had a professional background. She looked professional. She was really good in front of the camera. But the second thing was that she brought up examples as a shared screen. She said, can I share the screen? She brought up examples of her work. They asked her if she did volunteer work, and she had examples of her volunteer work all ready to go. It wasn't just a conversation. It was a show and tell. It was a dog and pony show. And that's what sold them. Be prepared for those interviews.
And you can do that now.
You can do that now.
How about, let's go back a little bit to the top level jobs. Are you seeing those top level jobs open and people trying to hire, or is that Or did
I
those
haven't
people not get laid off?
Those people did not suffer as much as the line employees that were the on-site people for the work. And I haven't seen a lot of those top level jobs come through yet. I think that's going to be slower. That's going to be again, and that's not just pandemic. That's not just the re-engineering of our industry. That's the fact that those jobs always are far and few between because as you go higher in the pyramid, the fewer the jobs there are.
Right.
So I'm
Right.
not seeing them just yet.
You're seeing it. Now, so if you're an employer, where are you recruiting the best people right now? We're hearing about people leaving the industry. You're hearing about all these sort of horror stories about nobody wants to work. Are you seeing that?
I'm not saying, not with the recruitment that we do.
Right.
I'm not saying that people don't want to work. I did see a brain drain in our industry where people who were let go and laid off went on to different industries. They went to real estate, they went to continuing care facilities, they went to HOAs, they went to various different industries, basically taking their transferable skills and moving on. Are hesitant about coming back right now. They're still not sure that our industry is going full fledged yet. We're not. We're slowly rebuilding. But where people are looking now, I have to say, Meetingjobs. I have to say that because it's my company and the industry association job boards and all those job boards. But if you're gonna focus on one of the big boards, I would say LinkedIn is going to be your number one source when it comes to looking for work or hiring somebody. LinkedIn seems to be a go-to place if you're going to go away from the niche job boards.
And should you be looking though? We talk about Indeed and all those big ones. I don't know even what are the big ones right now, other than Meetingjobs.
Well, the big ones are ZipRecruiter, Indeed, LinkedIn. I would say those are the three biggest right now. You've got Career Builder there, that's good. You've got Ladders, that's a good one too. But I would say if you want to do the traditional job board, it'd be Indeed and ZipRecruiter. But LinkedIn has a different format because you can view people's backgrounds. You can see their picture. People can upload videos. You can see who their friends are. You can see who has written reviews about them, and you can direct recruit and say, we have this job opening. Are you interested in it? So LinkedIn seems to be the go-to place. Again, if you're not going to a niche job board. And that's why I always tell candidates, the hiring official is going to go to LinkedIn. They're going to go see your background. They're going to see how it compares to your resume. They're going to see what your picture looks like. So you may as well make it easy for them and put a hyperlink on your resume directly to LinkedIn.
So what about the idea that you're talking about gig workers and things like that and temporary jobs? Are people looking at those job boards for the gig workers and the temporary workers?
And they are looking that way. In fact, through Cadre, the company that is owned by Meetingjobs was bought by, we actually have SEO optimization with the independent contractors in the Cadre system where you can put Cadre, the meeting planner, and it'll show up on a Google site and it'll actually link into all their sites. So yeah, people are looking for gig workers through Google, through LinkedIn, and seeing who's available.
How long do you think it's going to be before the gig workers turn into full jobs? Do you think we're talking 22, 23?
I don't know. If I had to put you an educated crystal ball guess, that's my crystal ball up there.
Crystal ball.
If I had to do that, I would say it probably wouldn't be to the end of 22, beginning of 23. Yeah.
And what
You know,
should
I think
people
that's what all the stats are saying, that we're going to be back fully engaged.
And during the pandemic, you had a choice between Netflix and chill or whatever that is, and taking classes and things like that. What will be the way to retool the traditional worker in our industry? What should they be studying, taking, learning about if you're an older employee to compete with the next generation?
Even the younger, every generation should be taking these courses. Education, going to these conferences like BizBash is putting on right now, going to the other industry associations, but going to the places that offer online training. I would say what's important right now is hybrid meetings, pandemic protocol. And then I think everybody should be aware of the business aspect of the meeting. Budgeting. I've always been a person who says you have to understand the business end of the meeting or the event. And so those are the areas that I think people should retool themselves in. I've had people who I've called, unfortunately, they don't understand my way of being direct, but dinosaurs, because they said, I really don't want to learn virtual meetings. I don't want to learn hybrid meetings. I don't. And I'm like, then you're a dinosaur in our industry.
Yeah,
You know,
you don't want to be a dinosaur. You definitely don't want to be
you
that.
don't
What
want to be a
about
dinosaur.
where's social media fitting into the learning curve? People expect that to happen and expect people to know about it. Some corporations won't do it. You have to be a one-man band in many of these things.
Well, I think social media is going to fit in more and more because if you look at the demographics of the different generations that are coming into the workplace, they're more comfortable with social media. There's more like I was reading the other day with Gen Z right now. The average Gen Z person had a phone at age 10, a smartphone. Social media and email is just like for us. It's so social media is going to be where people are going to be communicating. They're going to have their own groups, they're going to have everything. So that is an area that's going to be important.
So, okay, let's talk a little bit about when you get this new job or when you're hiring a new person. The work-life balance something people are looking for, or they really want you to work 24/7 to make your career? And does
No,
the
and
employer respect the change between working 24/7 and having your own life?
it depends on who the hiring official is. If you're dealing with a baby boomer boss, they still are having a hard time grasping balancing work and life. They really are.
They don't
And
want you to. They want you to work 24/7. Is that what you're
they
saying?
want you to work
And they
24/7
don't
because
want you to
they did.
work remotely. They want you to work at the office.
Yeah, and they're yes, and they want you to work at the office, and they still want you to leave messages on a pink slip
Oh
and put 'em
Jesus, no,
no, I'm
no!
only
I'm a
teasing.
boomer. I'm gonna
I'm
take that
only
one.
teasing. I'm only but anyway, no,
These kids don't even know what the pink slip is.
I know, or a Rolodex.
Or
So
roll.
we digress. But anyway, the hiring official, I was just reading a report, I think it was in Forbes today, that they were talking about that companies are actually paying people to take vacations now. And they're paying them extra money besides paid vacation because it's important for them to have the flexibility. And people are a little bit vacation weary right now. They don't want to take a vacation because they're afraid of what may happen and they lose their job if they're not completely constant right now. So I think the work-life balance is really important right now. And I think that hiring officials respect that. And I think hiring officials have to offer that in order to recruit effectively. The other thing they need to do recruit effectively is offer more than just money. The two last generations, what they're interested in, they're in severe college debt. So companies that I've been working with, one of them has been offering tuition reimbursement. So they've been saying, okay, if you stay 1 year, we'll pay 20% of your college debt. If you work 2 years, we'll pay another 30% of your college debt. And they're offering different incentives for them to stay with the company. And if you think back, and this is with any generation, when you're in your 20s and 30s, healthcare wasn't as important because we were going to live forever. Life insurance, that wasn't important. It was the immediate debt that we had that we were more concerned about. And
Interesting.
how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to get rid of the credit card debt? How am I going to get rid of the debt I have? And
How forward are these candidates in asking for that? I've been with a lot of young people that are saying, "I'm going to discuss my bonus,"
they're very
and the
forward.
bonus isn't offered.
They're very forward. They're very
Huh.
forward. Yeah, I think they should be. There's going to be I think there's going to be without having a hiring for a year and a half. There's going to be a shortage of people with 2 to 3 years experience a year from now. So there's going to be a gap there. There's going to be people who don't have that experience level when they're looking for that little more than entry level experience because they didn't hire for a year and a half.
So
So
what's going to happen though with entry level? Isn't are salaries going up naturally because it is an employee market? I'm sorry, an employee market. It's an employee market right now, right? Or is it? Like, where's the leverage?
I don't know where the leverage is right now. I don't know. I would love to say that there are more candidates than there are jobs. But I don't know if there's more qualified candidates than there are jobs. So when I said that there were 700 resumes, out of there may be 50 that are good. There may be 60 that are good. Or their demands are like there may be an organization that's saying, okay, on the sales side, we're looking for very low, we'll give you a draw or a low base, but high commission. The generation's coming in saying, no, pay me for what I'm working for and I'll bring it in. So I think there's going to have to be considerations made on both sides in order to recruit effectively.
So what is, as we get down to the last few minutes here, we always like, your crystal ball is very good. Where do you see, we're really thinking, instead of thinking the next year, where is the next 6 months? What's going to happen with this opening? Do you have any sort of thoughts on that? I mean,
my projection is that I think we're going to get slammed in a few months. I would say in December, in January, all of a sudden people are going to say, okay, it's a go. We're safe. We're opening up. The vaccinations are working. We can have meetings. We can do this and that. And I think that they're going to first bring people in on a project basis or on a temporary basis as independent contractors, as the gig workers. And then all of a sudden they're going to say, I need to staff up.
But should the candidates and the employers also already be out there trying to set the tips?
And they should have been doing it all along. If you haven't done it yet, you need to get up to date on different courses. You have to be able to talk to a hiring official of what I did in 18 months. And it can't be, as I said, my first 3 months of the pandemic was watching 18 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. You can't come back at an interview and say that. You've got to show what you did that was productive.
Let's end on training. So you hired this person, you're rusty because the company's got this big RFP, and what are they going to do in terms of the training side? Do you want to see companies that are investing in training when they're bringing people on? Because you're going to have to hit the ground running so fast. You're going to throw people into the ocean here.
I think you're going to find more training. And I think the reason is that people have to do it right the first time. And I think there's going to have to be more mentoring, and I think there's going to have to be more training. And because things are different now, and there's such a higher level, we aren't talking about if a mistake is made of, okay, it was a bad reception, the food wasn't good, or there weren't enough coffee cups. We're talking about pandemic protocol. We're talking about keeping people safe.
Lives.
We're talking about a much more level. And I also think that because companies took a hit financially, so many companies took hits financially, that when they bring conferences and events back, they have to make sure the ROI is there so that it's just not, oh, oops, bad program. Oh, we'll write that off. People are going to be very concerned about where their money is spent.
So on that note, Dawn, how can people get in touch with you?
I can be reached by dawn@meetingjobs.com. I've got a LinkedIn profile, or at meetingjobs.com is our website, or hirecadre.com.
Great. The last time we did a podcast with you, it was gangbusters, and everyone and their brother listened to it, and it spread like wildfire. So I hope that's going to happen again.
I hope
and I
so
want to really
thank you for inviting me again.
Thank you for being here, and look forward to our continuing conversations.
Okay, thanks a lot, David.
Thanks,
Take care
Dawn.
and be safe.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Player FM, Google Play, and Pocket Cast. Be sure to leave us a rating and review. It helps others discover the GatherGeeks podcast. We'd also love to hear from you. You can leave feedback on Twitter @GatherGeeks or leave us an email, gathergeeks@bizbash.com. We hope you'll join us again for the next episode of GatherGeeks. Until then, gather on.